The transport shuttle descended through the clouds of artificial atmosphere surrounding Station Kronos 7, and Hana Kim pressed her face against the window to watch. The massive orbital platform stretched across space like a small city, all metal and lights and purpose. Somewhere inside that structure, she would spend the next 3 years learning to fight alongside aliens who could crush her skull with one hand. She didn't feel afraid. She felt curious. The shuttle docked with 17 other cadets, most of them not human. Hana watched them file out with their confident strides and loud voices. There were 3 Vreks in the group, each standing nearly 3 meters tall, with gray skin like stone and muscles that seemed carved rather than grown. 2 Quiller moved with that distinctive fluid grace, their slim bodies and 4 arms making them look like they were dancing, even while standing still. A Morthai sat in the corner, its large eyes watching everyone, probably reading surface thoughts, like humans read facial expressions. Hana was one of 5 humans in this cohort. Earth had only joined the Galactic Coalition 5 years ago, and they were still proving themselves worthy of membership. The other 4 humans stood together, talking nervously. One of them, a broad-shouldered young man with an easy smile, kept glancing her way. "Hey," he said, walking over. "I'm Jinwoo. Jinwoo Park. You're human too, right?" Hana nodded. "Hana Kim. First time off Earth?" "Second." Jinwoo waited for more, but Hana didn't offer anything else. He laughed, not unkindly. "Not much of a talker, huh? That's okay. We humans need to stick together here. These aliens think we're weak." "Maybe we are," Hana said quietly. Jinwoo's smile faltered. "Hey, don't say that. We're here to prove them wrong." Before Hana could respond, a thunderous voice echoed through the docking bay. "Cadets! Formation! Now!" The speaker was a Vrex, his chest covered in military decorations that caught the light. His name, according to the translator chip in Hana's ear, was Instructor Velthas. He looked at the assembled cadets like a farmer might look at questionable livestock. "I am Instructor Velthas," he announced. "For the next 3 years, I will transform those of you worthy from children into warriors. Some of you will succeed. Most of you will not. The galaxy needs soldiers who can fight, not pretend to fight." His eyes swept across the humans. "I see we have Earth representatives again. Welcome. Try not to break too easily." Some of the alien cadets laughed. Hana noticed that Jinwoo's jaw tightened, and one of the other humans, a woman named Myray Choi, looked ready to say something angry. Hana just watched Velthas and memorized the way he stood, the way he gestured, the way he commanded attention. The first week was orientation. They learned the layout of the station, the rules, the expectations. They were assigned quarters, 4 cadets to a room. Hana shared hers with Jinwoo, Myray, and a Quiller named Dralvik, who made it clear from the first day that he considered humans inferior. "No offense," he said in that particular way that meant maximum offense was intended. "But your species is just not built for combat. You're slow, weak, fragile. You don't have telepathy, enhanced senses, or natural weapons. I'm honestly not sure why the Coalition allowed you to join the military program." We asked nicely. Jinwoo suggested with forced humor. Dralvik didn't laugh. "Your diplomatic species. That's fine. Every civilization has its place. Yours just isn't on the battlefield." Hana said nothing. She was unpacking her few belongings and arranging them with careful precision. Dralvik watched her for a moment, then lost interest. Training began in earnest during the second week. The cadets were divided into squads of mixed species and put through basic combat drills. Hana learned quickly that she was, by galactic standards, unremarkable. She could fire a standard-issue pulse rifle accurately, but so could everyone else. She could run the obstacle course, but she finished in the middle of the pack. In hand-to-hand combat training, She was careful not to get injured, which meant she rarely won, but rarely lost badly. Either her instructors noted her performance with mild approval. Adequate was the word they used most often. Show's promise was generous. Needs improvement was more common. Hannah didn't mind. She watched everything. She studied how the Vrex fought with overwhelming power, how the Quiller used speed and angles, how the Morthai anticipated movements before they happened. She watched her fellow humans struggle and adapt. She noticed patterns in the training, repeated scenarios, preferred tactics. She didn't talk much. When other cadets tried to befriend her, she was polite but distant. When instructors asked her questions, she answered precisely and briefly. Jinwoo kept trying to pull her into the social dynamics of their squad, but she remained on the periphery. "You're weird, you know that?" Myray told her one evening after a particularly brutal training session. "You don't celebrate when we do well. You don't get upset when we lose. You're just there." "I'm observing," Hannah said. "Observing what?" "Everything." Myray shook her head and walked away. Hannah returned to her bunk and pulled out her datapad, reviewing footage of the day's combat drills. The academy allowed cadets to study their performances. Most didn't bother, too exhausted after training. Hannah watched every session 3 times, analyzing every movement, every decision, every mistake. The first real test came in the 3rd month. Squad versus squad combat simulations. Hannah's squad, designated Squad 7, was considered average at best. Their first match was against a Vrex-heavy squad that should have crushed them. The simulation began. Squad 7 took defensive positions in a ruined building. The Vrex squad advanced with textbook tactics, using their strength to smash through obstacles. Hannah's squad leader, a Quiller named Ren, called for a fighting retreat. It was the correct tactical decision, but they were getting flanked. Hannah could see it developing, read it in the enemy's formation, like words on a page. She didn't speak up. She wasn't the leader. Instead, she moved to a position that covered the flank angle, and when 2 Vrex came through exactly where she expected, she was ready. 2 shots. Both headshots. Both kills. Her squad survived the engagement barely. After the simulation ended, Ren looked at her with surprise. "Good shooting, Hannah." Hannah nodded and said nothing. But she had noticed something important. The instructors had been watching. Not with interest, exactly. More like mild curiosity. A human had done something competent. How unusual. She went back to being invisible after that. Just another cadet in just another squad, performing adequately, attracting no attention. While Dralvik showed off his speed and Jinwoo tried to prove human toughness, and Myray fought with angry determination, Hannah remained quiet, but she kept watching. She kept learning. She kept filing away every piece of information about how the galaxy fought its wars, and none of them realized that the quiet human girl was building something in her mind, piece by piece, pattern by pattern, a way to turn being underestimated into a weapon sharper than any blade. The announcement came during morning assembly in the 6th month of training. Instructor Velthus stood before the assembled cadets with something that might have been satisfaction on his stone-like features. "The annual crucible begins in 3 days," he declared. For those who don't know, the crucible is a month-long combat simulation that will test everything you think you've learned. The scenarios are designed by combat veterans from a dozen species. The neural feedback system will make every injury feel real, every exhaustion genuine, every moment of fear authentic. He paused, letting that sink in. Your performance in the crucible will determine your future. The top performers become officers in elite units. The bottom tier will spend their careers loading supply ships. For most of you, this is where you discover whether you have what it takes to be a real warrior. The cadets stirred with nervous energy. Hannah sat still, hands folded in her lap, face showing nothing. But inside, something sparked to life. A month of constant combat scenarios. A month of watching, learning, adapting. A month where patterns would emerge and could be exploited. She realized she had been waiting for something like this. That evening, Squad 7 gathered to discuss strategy. They were an odd collection. Besides Hana and Jinwoo, there was Ren the Quiller, who served as squad leader, another Quiller scout named Tiva, and a Morthai engineer called Home, who rarely spoke, but could fix anything. Not a prestigious squad. Not one anyone expected great things from. We need alliances, Ren said, pacing back and forth with that liquid Quiller movement. The Crucible allows temporary cooperation between squads. We should partner with stronger groups, maybe the Vrex heavy assault teams. They won't want us, Tiva pointed out. We're middle tier at best. Why would elite squads waste time with us? Then we survive on our own, Jinwoo said firmly. We prove we don't need them. Noble sentiment, Ren replied. Also potentially fatal. They talked in circles for an hour. Hana listened but didn't contribute. Finally, Home the Morthai turned his large eyes toward her. The quiet one has not spoken. What are your thoughts, Hana Kim? Everyone looked at her. Hana considered her words carefully. We should do what we do best. Stay in the middle. Don't attract attention. Survive each scenario. Let stronger squads fight each other. Learn from watching them. That's boring, Jinwoo protested. Where's the glory in that? There's no glory in failing, Hana said simply. Ren nodded slowly. She's not wrong. Conservative tactics. Minimize losses. It won't get us in the top tier, but it keeps us from the bottom. And so Squad 7 entered the Crucible with no grand ambitions, no bold strategies, no expectations placed on them. They were aiming for adequate, unremarkable, safe. The first day of the Crucible dropped them into a jungle warfare scenario. Dense vegetation, limited visibility, enemies everywhere. Squad 7 moved cautiously, following Ren's lead. They avoided two other squads fighting each other, circled around a patrol, secured a minor objective without incident. Boring, safe, adequate. On the third day, things changed. They were in an urban combat scenario, clearing buildings in a simulated war zone. Squad 7 was advancing carefully when another squad ambushed them from multiple positions. A perfect kill box. Crossfire from three directions. Ren shouted for cover. Tiva went down immediately, eliminated by the simulation. Home took a hit and stumbled. Jinwoo fired blindly, trying to suppress one firing position. They were losing badly, exactly as they should. Hana didn't panic. While others scattered, she observed. 3 enemy positions meant 3 muzzle flash patterns. The timing between shots told her which weapons they carried. The angles told her where they were standing. And one of them, the one commanding the ambush, had made a tiny mistake. He was positioned where a wall met a metal support beam. Hana raised her rifle, aimed at the beam at a specific angle, and fired once. The bolt ricocheted exactly as she calculated. It struck the enemy squad leader in the head. His simulation suit registered a fatal hit, and he dropped. Without their leader's coordination, the ambush faltered. Squad 7 fought back and survived, barely. After the scenario ended, Jinwoo grabbed her shoulder. That shot. How did you make that shot? Physics, Hana said. Angle of incidence equals angle of reflection. Nobody makes ricochet shots in combat. That was luck. Hana didn't argue. Let him think it was luck, but Instructor Velthus had been watching the scenario from the command center. He replayed Hana's shot 3 times, studying the angle, the timing, the decision-making process. A ricochet shot in the middle of a chaotic ambush. Executed perfectly. Interesting. The Crucible continued. Squad 7 kept following their strategy of staying unremarkable, avoiding risks, surviving scenarios. They accumulated points, slowly but steadily. By the end of the first week, they ranked 15th out of 32 remaining squads, exactly in the middle. Exactly as planned, except people started noticing a pattern. Squad 7 never failed completely. Even when they should have been eliminated, they scraped by. A well-timed grenade here, a flanking maneuver there. Small moments of brilliance and otherwise, ordinary performances. And most of those moments involved the quiet human girl Dot in the second week. Squad 7 faced a zero-gravity combat scenario aboard a simulated damaged spacecraft. Most squads struggled with the environment. The Vrex especially hated it because their strength meant nothing without gravity. But Hana adapted instantly, using three-dimensional thinking and momentum physics to position herself perfectly. She eliminated 4 enemies in 30 seconds, using the environment like a weapon. Push off here, angle there, fire at this vector. Let momentum carry her to the next position. It was like watching someone dance through violence. Jingwu stared at her afterward. "When did you learn to fight in 0G? "I didn't," Hannah said. "I just thought about it." By the end of the second week, Squad 7 had climbed to 8th place. Higher-ranked squads started paying attention. Dralvik, leading a top-tier Quiller squad, began watching Squad 7 scenarios with increasing frustration. "It's the human," he told his squad mates. "Watch her. Every time they should lose, she does something. Small things, but they add up." "She's just lucky," one of his team replied. "Nobody is that lucky," Dralvik said darkly. The confrontation came during the third week. Squad versus squad battle, no restrictions, full combat. Dralvik specifically requested to face Squad 7. He wanted to prove that human luck couldn't stand against Quiller superiority. The scenario was an abandoned industrial complex. Dralvik's squad had better positioning, better weapons, better tactical setup. They executed a perfect ambush, one that should have eliminated Squad 7 in the first 30 seconds. But Hana had studied Quiller tactics for 6 months. She knew how they moved, how they thought, how they positioned themselves. More importantly, she knew they would underestimate her completely. She saw the ambush developing before it triggered. Saw it in the way the industrial complex was laid out, the optimal positions for a Quiller squad to use their speed advantage. She knew where they would be dot, so when the ambush began, Squad 7 wasn't where Dralvik expected them to be. And Hana was exactly where she needed to be. What followed was 4 minutes of systematic dismantling. Hana read every movement Dralvik's squad made before they made it. She predicted their speed dashes, their flanking attempts, their aggressive pushes. She turned their greatest strength into a weakness by being where their momentum would carry them. Ready and waiting dot when Dralvik himself came at her in close combat. Confident his superior reflexes would end it instantly, Hana stepped into his attack rather than away from it. His first strike missed by millimeters. His second strike missed because she had already predicted where it would be and wasn't there. Her counterstrike didn't miss. Dralvik's simulation suit registered elimination. He stood frozen, unable to believe a human had just beaten him in personal combat. Squad 7 won. Completely. Decisively. The footage of that battle spread through the academy overnight. Cadets watched it over and over, trying to understand how a human moved like that, fought like that, predicted like that dot, and Hana went back to being quiet, saying nothing, attracting as little attention as possible. But the galaxy was starting to notice her. Anyway, the Academy's command center had become obsessed with Squad 7. 3 senior instructors sat in the darkened room, surrounded by holographic displays showing combat footage from every angle. They had been reviewing scenarios for 6 hours straight. "Play the warehouse engagement again," Instructor Velthes commanded. The hologram shimmered and reconstructed a brutal fight from 2 days ago. Squad 7 against a Vrex heavy assault team, 4 opponents who individually outweighed the entire human squad. The Vrex had superior weapons, superior position, superior everything. They lost in 90 seconds. There, Belphis said, pointing at Hana's small figure. Watch her eyes. She's tracking something. The footage slowed. Hana's head moved slightly, her gaze shifting between 3 points in the warehouse's ceiling structure. What is she looking at? Another instructor asked. Structural weak points, Belphis replied. Watch. In the footage, Hana fired 3 shots. Not at the Vrex, at support beams. The heavy Vrex squad leader charged forward, just as a section of the ceiling collapsed on him. Chaos erupted. Squad 7 exploited it perfectly. She planned that in 3 seconds, Belphis said quietly. Analyzed the structure, calculated the collapse pattern, predicted enemy movement, and executed. That's impossible. No cadet can process that fast. No Vrex cadet. No Quiller cadet. No Morthai cadet. Belphis paused. But apparently, one human cadet can. The instructors fell silent. Finally, one spoke. Should we report this to Coalition Command? Report what? That a human is performing well? They'll think we're being dramatic. This isn't just performing well. This is something else. Vel'Thas stared at the frozen image of Hana, her face calm and focused while everything around her exploded into violence. Continue monitoring. I want every second of her remaining scenarios analyzed. If this is what I think it is, the galaxy needs to know. Meanwhile, Squad 7's rank continued climbing. 8th place became 6th. 6th became 4th. With 1 week left in the Crucible, they were 3rd overall, behind only 2 elite squads that had been expected to dominate from the start. The other cadets were confused, and some were angry. How was this possible? Squad 7 had no Vrex powerhouses, no Quiller speed demons, no Morthai telepaths. They had 3 humans, 2 Quiller, and a Morthai engineer. By any reasonable assessment, they should be middle tier at best. It's cheating somehow, one cadet insisted. They must have hacked the simulation. The simulations can't be hacked, another replied. The security is absolute. Then how? Nobody had a good answer. Well, almost nobody. My R.A. Echoy, the human cadet from another squad, had been watching Hana since the beginning. They had trained together on Earth before coming to the academy. Myray knew Hana better than most, though even she didn't understand her completely. After a particularly impressive Squad 7 victory, Myray cornered Hana in the corridors between training facilities. What are you doing? Myray demanded. Walking back to quarters, Hana said mildly. You know what I mean. What you're doing in these simulations. How are you doing it? Hana looked at her for a long moment. I watch. I learn. I apply what I learn. Everyone watches. Everyone learns. But you're making shots that shouldn't be possible, and predicting enemy movements like you can read minds. I can't read minds, Hana said, but I can read patterns. People are predictable if you watch them long enough. Species are even more predictable. That's it. Pattern recognition? Isn't that enough? Myray shook her head in frustration. You're making all of us look bad. Every time you do something impossible, the instructors compare the rest of us humans to you. We can't do what you do. Then do what you can do, Hana said simply. I'm not competing with you. I'm just completing the scenarios. You're winning the scenarios. There's a difference. Hana started to walk away, then paused. Myray, humans are not as strong or fast as most species here. So we have to be smarter. That's not an insult to them or a compliment to us. It's just reality. She disappeared around the corner, Leaving Myray staring after her dot, the fourth week of the Crucible brought the most difficult scenarios. Multi-stage operations that required sustained combat over hours, complex objectives, and maximum stress. This was where squads usually broke down, where exhaustion and fear turned trained cadets into confused mobs. Squad 7 entered a scenario called the Siege, where they had to defend a facility against waves of attackers for 6 simulated hours. Most squads lost by the third wave. Squad 7 lasted all 6 hours and repelled every attack. Instructor Vel'Thuz watched the entire scenario from start to finish. What he saw terrified and fascinated him in equal measure. Hana wasn't just fighting. She was orchestrating. Every member of Squad 7 was positioned exactly where they needed to be. Every attack wave was met with a counter that seemed designed specifically for it. When ammunition ran low, they fell back to positions where captured enemy weapons waited. When Home the engineer took damage, they pulled back to medical supply caches that Hana had apparently memorized, but most impressive was how she read the attacking forces. After the first wave, she started predicting what would come next. After the second wave, her predictions were perfect. By the fourth wave, she wasn't reacting to attacks. She was preparing for them before they developed. One of the attacking squad leaders, watching from the eliminated section, spoke into the observation channel. How does she know? We're choosing our tactics in real time. There's no pattern to follow. There's always a pattern, Vel'Thuz muttered. She's just the first one to see it. The footage from the siege was analyzed by every tactical instructor in the academy. They broke down Hana's defensive strategy minute by minute. What they found was disturbing in its implications. She had understood something fundamental that most warriors never grasp. Combat wasn't chaos. It was compressed decision-making. Every choice an enemy made was based on their training, their instincts, their species' natural tendencies. If you understood those factors, you could predict choices. If you could predict choices, you could be ready for them. Hana had spent 6 months watching every species fight. She knew how Vrex thought, how Quiller moved, how Morthai coordinated. She had built mental models of each species' combat psychology. In the simulation, she wasn't reading minds. She was reading the inevitable consequences of their nature. It's not supernatural, Vel'Thuz explained to the other instructors. It's just very, very advanced pattern recognition combined with tactical application. She's not guessing what they'll do. She's calculating the highest probability actions and preparing for those. But to do that under combat stress, in real time, Yes, extraordinary. With 3 days left in the Crucible, Squad 7 climbed to first place. The previous leaders, an elite Vrex unit called Hammer Squad, were furious. They demanded a direct confrontation scenario. The Academy administration agreed. The final challenge before the ultimate Crucible test would be Hammer Squad versus Squad 7. Pure combat. No objectives, no complications. Just 2 squads fighting until one was eliminated. Hammer Squad spent 2 days preparing. They studied Squad 7's tactics, analyzed Hana's fighting style, developed counters to her strategies. They were determined to expose this human's apparent genius as nothing more than luck that had finally run out. The scenario began in a neutral environment, a flat plain with scattered cover. Nowhere to hide, nowhere to run. Just combat. Hammer Squad advanced with overwhelming force, their Vrex strength used to maximum effect. They had prepared for every tactic Squad 7 had shown. They were ready. What they weren't ready for was Hana, doing something completely different. She had analyzed their preparation time. She knew they would study Squad 7's previous fights. She knew they would develop counters. So she didn't use any previous tactics. Instead, she improvised entirely new strategies on the spot, using Squad 7's weaknesses as bait and their unpredictability as a weapon. She positioned her squad in apparently terrible positions that turned out to be perfect when Hammer Squad committed to their planned counters. She made decisions that seemed random but created opportunities 3 moves later. It was like watching someone play chess against opponents who had memorized her past games, only to discover she could play entirely differently when needed. Hammer Squad lost decisively. Their leader stood in stunned silence after elimination. How? We prepared for everything. You prepared for what I did before, Hana said quietly. I don't do the same thing twice, if I can help it. That night, the entire academy buzzed with one topic. The quiet human cadet who nobody had noticed for 6 months had just beaten every elite squad in the academy. She had gone from invisible to legendary in 4 weeks. And the final challenge, the massive free-for-all finale, was tomorrow. Hana sat in her bunk, reviewing footage one last time. 20 squads would enter the finale. Only one would emerge victorious. The chaos would be total, the violence overwhelming. She closed her eyes and ran simulations in her mind. Patterns within patterns. Possibilities branching and converging. A galaxy that had underestimated humanity was about to learn a hard lesson. She smiled slightly. Tomorrow would be interesting. Instructor Velthus hadn't slept in 36 hours. He sat surrounded by holographic displays, reviewing every second of combat footage featuring Hana Kim. 300 hours of recordings. Thousands of individual moments of violence and decision-making. What he discovered kept him awake not from duty, but from fascination. He started with the obvious observations. Hana's shooting accuracy was above average, but not exceptional. Her physical strength was below average for the academy. Her speed was unremarkable. On paper, she should be mediocre at best, but that wasn't what the footage showed. He isolated a moment from a hostage rescue scenario. Squad 7 had breached a building held by a Quiller squad. The building had 30 rooms across 3 floors. Most squads would have taken 20 minutes to clear it carefully. Squad 7 did it in 47 seconds. Velthus watched Hana move through the building. She never hesitated. She knew which rooms to check and which to skip. She knew which corners held enemies and which were safe. She moved like someone following a map that only she could see. He ran the footage through combat analysis software. The program highlighted her sightlines, her angles of fire, her positioning. Then he overlaid theoretical enemy positions. His breath caught. She had predicted where every enemy would be within a margin of 2 meters. She hadn't been reacting to enemies. She had been intercepting them at predetermined points. The entire building clear was choreographed in her mind before she entered. Impossible, he muttered. Then he checked 17 other scenarios. Same pattern. Same impossible accuracy of prediction. He pulled up footage of her first month at the academy. Back when she was unremarkable, invisible, just another human cadet struggling with basic training. He watched her during observation periods, during classes, during combat drills she wasn't participating in. She never stopped watching. Even when resting, her eyes tracked movements, studied formations, absorbed information. While other cadets socialized or rested, she watched and learned with absolute focus. Velthus began to understand. This wasn't a talent someone was born with. This was the result of deliberate, methodical observation over months. She had been building a database of information, pattern by pattern, species by species, until she could predict behavior with terrifying accuracy. But it wasn't just memorization. The combat analysis showed she could extrapolate, adapt, and improvise. She understood the underlying principles of why species fought the way they did. She had gone beyond memorizing patterns to understanding the psychology that created those patterns. It was like she had taken 6 months of basic training and turned it into a graduate-level education in galactic combat psychology. While others were learning to shoot straight, she was learning to read the battlefield like a language. Velthus pulled up Earth's file in the Coalition database. Humans were classified as a persistence hunting species. They chased prey for hours until it collapsed from exhaustion. They tracked patterns in animal behavior. They planned ambushes days in advance. They used tools to overcome physical limitations, and they came from what the galaxy classified as a Class 9 death world, a planet where almost everything was trying to kill them, where survival required constant adaptation, quick thinking, and the ability to learn from every encounter. They didn't just survive that world, Velthus said to the empty room. They learned to think like predators in a world full of bigger predators. They learned to predict and adapt, or they died. For millions of years. He understood now. What Hana represented wasn't an anomaly. She was what happened when you took a species that evolved to outthink threats and trained them in proper combat techniques. You created something the galaxy wasn't prepared for. He opened a communication channel to Coalition Military Command. They needed to know about this. Meanwhile, the finale was beginning. 20 squads entered a massive simulated urban environment. 10 square kilometers of buildings, streets, and underground passages. The rules were simple. Last squad standing wins. No alliances would save you in the end. Everyone was an enemy. The chaos began immediately. 3 squads collided in the southern sector within the first minute, turning an entire city block into a war zone. 2 more squads clashed in the commercial district. A Rex heavy unit began systematically destroying hiding spots, forcing everyone into open combat. Squad 7 moved quietly through the eastern residential area. They avoided the early fights, letting stronger squads wear each other down. Standard Hana strategy. Be invisible until it mattered. But this time, Hana did something different. She stopped in the middle of a street and looked around slowly, taking in the entire battlefield. Hana? Jinwoo asked nervously. We should keep moving. No, she said quietly. We need to talk. Squad meeting, now. They gathered in a ruined building. For the first time in the entire crucible, Hana's face showed intensity instead of calm observation. This is the finale, she said. 20 squads. Most of them will eliminate each other in the first hour. That's the trap. Everyone thinks they need to fight immediately. Don't we? Ren asked. No, we need to think 3 hours ahead. 5 hours ahead. This isn't about winning the next fight. It's about being the squad that can still fight when everyone else is exhausted and damaged. She pulled up a map on her tactical display. The city has 3 strategic areas. High ground here, here, and here. Supply caches here and here. Underground passages here. Right now, 15 squads are fighting over the obvious tactical points. We're going to ignore all of them. Then what do we do? Tiva asked. We hunt the hunters, the smart squads, the ones like us who are staying out of the early fighting. We eliminate them quietly while everyone else is distracted by the big battles. Jinwoo stared at her. That's ruthless. That's winning, Hana said simply. The strong squads will exhaust themselves fighting each other. The weak squads are already eliminated. The dangerous squads are the smart ones. We need to remove them first. Home the Morphi spoke for the first time in hours. You have identified these smart squads already. It wasn't a question. Hana nodded. 3 of them. I know their tactics. I know where they'll go. We move now. What followed was 3 hours of surgical strikes. Hana led Squad 7 through the urban environment like a ghost through walls. They found the first smart squad setting up an ambush position. Squad 7 ambushed the ambushers. They tracked the second squad through underground passages, predicted their exit point, and eliminated them as they emerged. The third squad was harder. They were good, experienced, and careful. But Hana had been watching their leader for 6 months. She knew how he thought. She knew he would go to the old factory complex because it offered the best defensive position. Squad 7 arrived first, set their trap, and waited when the enemy squad entered. They walked into a kill zone that had been prepared specifically for their tactics. It was over in seconds by the 3-hour mark. 8 squads remained. The big battles had thinned the ranks exactly as Hana predicted. The remaining squads were all strong, all dangerous, all exhausted from constant fighting, except Squad 7. They were fresh, supplied, and positioned perfectly. The command center was in absolute chaos. Senior officers had joined the instructors to watch this finale. What they were seeing from Squad 7 was beyond anything in the Crucible's history. "She's not fighting a battle," one officer said in awe. "She's conducting a symphony." On the battlefield, the remaining squads finally noticed that Squad 7 had been quietly removing their most dangerous competitors. Now the remaining elite squads, bloodied and tired, realized the quiet human squad was the real threat. 3 squads formed a temporary alliance to hunt Squad 7. 15 warriors, all elite, all determined to end the humans' impossible run. Hana saw them coming. She had expected this too. "They'll coordinate an assault," she told her squad. 3 directions. Standard hammer and anvil tactics. They think we'll be trapped. "Won't we be?" Jinwoo asked. "Only if we're still there when they arrive." She led them through a series of rapid movements, using the city's geography to break the enemy's coordination. She separated their forces by drawing them into different areas with feints and false trails. Then Squad 7 systematically eliminated each group in isolation. The combat was intense but controlled. Hana didn't panic, didn't rush, didn't make mistakes. She read the battlefield like music, conducting her squad through violence with absolute precision. When the dust settled, 5 squads remained, but 3 were severely damaged. Squad 7 and 1 other squad, a mixed Vrex and Quiller unit, were still at full strength. The final confrontation happened in the central plaza. Both squads knew this was it. The winner would take the Crucible. The enemy squad had superior firepower. They had the high ground. They had every advantage. Hana smiled. She had been counting on that. "Everyone do exactly as I say," she told Squad 7. "Trust me." And then she walked out into the open, apparently surrendering. The enemy squad hesitated, confused. It had to be a trap, but where? That hesitation gave Squad 7 the 3 seconds they needed to execute a plan so complex, so precise, that the command center would analyze it for weeks afterward. When it was over, Squad 7 stood alone in the plaza. The Crucible was complete. Hana Kim, the quiet cadet nobody had noticed, had achieved the highest combat score in Academy history. The award ceremony was held in the Grand Assembly Hall, a massive chamber that could hold 3,000 beings. Every seat was filled. News feeds from across Coalition space carried the broadcast live. This was more than just an Academy graduation ceremony. This had become an event, because a human had won the Crucible, not just won, dominated, achieved a score that shattered records going back 40 years. The analysts had run the numbers 3 times because they couldn't believe them. Hana Kim's tactical performance rating was 98 out of 100. The previous record was 86. Backstage, Squad 7 waited nervously. Holmes stood calmly, as Morthai usually did. Ren and Tiva kept adjusting their dress uniforms. Jinwoo couldn't stop grinning. He kept looking at Hana like she was a stranger he just met. "I trained with you for 6 months," he said. "How did I not know?" "You knew," Hana said quietly. "You just didn't think it mattered. Why didn't you show everyone from the start? Why hide?" Hana considered the question. "Because everyone was teaching me. Every instructor who underestimated me, every cadet who ignored me, every alien who thought humans were weak. They all taught me everything they knew while thinking I wasn't paying attention. If I had been impressive from the start, they would have seen me as a threat. They would have been careful around me. I learned more by being invisible. Jingwu shook his head in amazement. That's either brilliant or terrifying. Can't it be both? Hana asked with the smallest smile. The ceremony began. Awards were given for various achievements. Squads were recognized for different accomplishments. Finally, Instructor Vilthes took the stage to announce the crucible. Results. He looked different than he had at the beginning of the year. Less certain, more thoughtful. He had learned something during this crucible that changed him. The crucible tests everything we believe about combat, he said, his voice carrying across the hall. It tests strength, speed, courage, and skill. This year, it taught us that we had forgotten to test the most important quality of all, intelligence. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Squad 7, please come forward. They walked onto the stage. Hana moved last, quiet as always, her small human frame dwarfed by the other cadets around her. Squad 7 achieved something unprecedented, Velthus continued. They won not through superior strength or speed, but through superior thinking. Their leader, Cadet Hana Kim, demonstrated tactical abilities that our analysts are still trying to fully understand. He turned to look directly at Hana. The footage of your crucible performance has been reviewed by every military strategist in the coalition. They all had the same question. How did you do it? The entire hall fell silent. Hana stood under the attention of thousands, broadcast to billions across the galaxy. Everyone waited for her answer. She stepped forward to the microphone. Her voice was quiet but clear. You taught me, she said simply. Velthus blinked. Explain. 6 months ago, I arrived here knowing nothing about galactic warfare. I was weak by your standards, slow by your standards, unremarkable by any standard. So I watched. I observed every species, every tactic, every movement pattern. I studied how Vrex think, how Quiller move, how Morthai coordinate. I learned from every drill, every lecture, every casual conversation. She paused. But most importantly, I learned from being underestimated. When you think someone is beneath notice, you don't guard your knowledge. You teach freely because you don't believe they can use it against you. You gave me every lesson I needed by assuming I couldn't learn them. The hall remained silent. Hana continued. Humans come from Earth. You classify it as a Class 9 death world. Everything on our planet wanted to kill us. We survived not because we were strongest, but because we learned faster than anything else. We observed, we adapted, we overcame. For millions of years, that was how we stayed alive. She looked out at the audience, at the hundreds of alien faces watching her. You gave me information about how you fight. You let me watch you train. You explained your tactics while thinking I was too weak to matter. Then you put me in combat simulations and were surprised when I used everything you taught me. The failure wasn't mine. It was yours. You forgot that intelligence can overcome almost any physical disadvantage. The silence broke. Some cadets looked angry. Some looked thoughtful. Some looked afraid. Hana wasn't finished. This isn't about me being special. This is about humanity being underestimated. There are billions of humans on Earth who could do what I did if given the same training and opportunity. We're a young species in your galaxy, and you've been treating us like children. That was a mistake. A Vrex admiral in the front row stood up. Are you threatening us? No, Hana said calmly. I'm explaining. Humans don't need to threaten. We just need to learn. And you've been teaching us for 5 years now. Teaching us your technology, your tactics, your weaknesses. All while thinking we're too insignificant to worry about. She let that sink in. I'm not your enemy. I want to serve the coalition. But I want you to understand what you're dealing with. Humanity isn't strong like Vrex. We're not fast like Quiller. We're not telepathic like Morthai. But we learn. We adapt. We overcome. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. And now we're learning from you. Instructor Velthas stepped forward. For a moment, Hana thought he might be angry. Instead, he did something unexpected. He bowed. A full formal bow of respect. You honor us with your honesty, he said. And you humble us with your example. I was wrong about humanity. We were all wrong. The coalition is stronger for having your species among us. The applause started slowly, then built. Not everyone joined in. Some aliens looked worried. Some looked calculating. But many recognized what had happened here. A species had announced themselves. Not with threats or displays of strength, but with undeniable demonstration of capability. After the ceremony, Hana was approached by representatives from a dozen elite military units. They offered her command positions, special operations roles, advanced training opportunities. Every offer came with prestige, resources, and respect. She turned them all down. Why? One shocked officer asked. You could have any position in the coalition military. I have a different plan, Hana said. 2 weeks later, she stood before coalition command with a formal proposal. Instructor Velthas stood beside her, having agreed to support her idea. I want to return to Earth, she told the assembled officers. I want to establish a training program for human warriors. Not to make them like other species, but to develop their unique advantages. Pattern recognition, adaptive thinking, persistence, and tactical innovation. You want to create more like yourself, an officer said. No. I want to create an entire generation that's better than me. I had to figure everything out alone. They'll have proper instruction, proper methodology, proper understanding of what humans can do. This could be seen as humanity building a military force independent of the coalition. Or it could be seen as humanity finally contributing what we're actually good at. Hana replied, You have species that provide strength, species that provide speed, species that provide telepathy. Let humanity provide tactical innovation and adaptive thinking. Use us properly instead of trying to make us into weaker versions of stronger species. The debate lasted hours. Finally, Coalition Command agreed. Humanity would establish their own combat training program, operating within Coalition guidelines, but focused on human advantages. As Hana prepared to leave the station, Instructor Velthas found her one last time. I underestimated you, he said. I underestimated your entire species. That was arrogant of me? Yes, Hana agreed. But you learned. That's what matters. Do you think humanity will become a dominant military power in the coalition? Hana thought about it. I think humanity will become essential. Every species has something they're best at. We're best at learning from everyone else and combining it into something new. That's valuable. Maybe more valuable than raw strength. And dangerous, Velthas added quietly. Only if we're enemies, Hana said. We don't want to be enemies. We want to be partners. But partners who are respected, not patronized. She extended her hand in the human gesture of farewell. Velthas grasped it carefully, mindful of his strength against her fragile human bones. Go teach them well, he said. The galaxy will be watching. Let them watch, Hana replied. We learned everything we know by watching you. Now it's your turn to learn from us. The transport carried her away from the station toward Earth. She looked back once, seeing the massive Academy platform shrinking in the distance. 6 months ago, she had arrived there as nobody. An unremarkable human from an unremarkable planet, expected to fail or at best achieve mediocrity. She was leaving as the cadet who changed how the galaxy viewed humanity. On Earth, she would build something new. A training program that understood human advantages and developed them properly. Warriors who thought as well as they fought. Tacticians who could read battlefields like poetry. Soldiers who overcame physical limitations through superior intelligence and adaptation. The quiet cadet had found her voice. And the galaxy, whether it wanted to or not, was going to listen, because humanity had arrived. Not with conquest or aggression, but with something far more powerful. Proof that they belonged here. That they had something unique to contribute. And that underestimating them was a mistake the galaxy would not make twice. Hannah Kim closed her eyes and began planning. There was much work to do. An entire generation to train. A species potential to unlock. A place in the galaxy to secure. She smiled. It would be interesting, and she had always liked interesting.